So the next one is House of the Dead. This is the first Uwe Boll movie I've had to watch. For people that aren't familiar with him, he's a jackass. Basically, he is an absolute loathed director of mostly horror movies, um, who basically makes movies as cheap as possible to make a profit on them, it sounds like. And he makes really bad movies. Yeah, they're bad. I don't know, well, there's not much else to say there apart from he doesn't take criticism well and often challenges people to fight him when people don't like his movies. So if this ever gets any attention, I'm sure he'll challenge me to a boxing match. So yeah, he's just sort of whiny and very disliked as a person. Which is sort of, I was wondering if his movies particularly deserve a spot in the worst movies of all time list like this, or if his unpopularity as a person maybe had something to do with why they're so lowly regarded. I have only watched, I think I'd watched Alone in the Dark once a long time ago. Um, I might have watched one or two others just when I was watching bad horror movies and didn't realize they were his. They don't really seem like outstandingly bad horror movies. They seem sort of par for the course for B horror at this point. Sort of crap you'd find on FearNet. But this particular one, House of the Dead, based on a popular arcade game, uh, I will give him credit here in an odd sort of way. He actually uses clips directly from the game to act as transitions between scenes, which actually gets kind of boring after a while, but it was kind of an interesting idea to try and tie it in with the games. That still fails in every other aspect. The one cool thing that I wish he had done consistently here is when a character dies sometimes, they do like a death screen like you would have in a video game where they show the character and pan around them, and then say blank is dead or whatever. And that was actually kind of a cool effect, but he didn't do it consistently. He didn't do it for all the characters. And it also somehow didn't get done enough, but also got overdone. There was a lot of really boring panning and bullet time in this movie. Also of note, this movie doesn't actually take place in a house very much. It's only the very last bit that's in a house, so it's kind of a misnomer. All the acting's bad, predictably. Didn't expect any good acting here. It's not excessively bad. It's mostly what you would expect from a B horror movie. As is known for his movies, there are also fake bullet effects for the gunshots that are sort of a trademark of his at this point. They look really bad and unconvincing. I'm trying to think the one thing that I did notice is that for a horror movie, that this isn't even particularly an expensive thing to do. Practical effects are really important for, if you're going for a gore aspect. And this one just didn't do it. Like, there was only a little bit. Like, I swear there were parts of this movie where I was paying attention, and there were people in the background who were zombies that were just not in makeup at all. They were just sort of people falling over. And, like, that's just so lazy. And that's really what this movie comes down to, is it is super lazy. It's not even particularly entertaining. It's very disappointing and not any kind of entertainment value here. I can see why it's so high on the list between it is just a bad movie and he's super unpopular as a person. I can't recommend it. It's, there's just nothing particularly redeeming here. So, yeah, that's about all I've got to say about this one. House of the Dead. I will say they try to cram the entire plot into the last 20 minutes, and it totally falls on its face. The other thing that is particularly notable here is the ending is very bad. I'm going to spoil it anyway, even if you don't want to be spoiled, because this movie is not one you should be concerned about spoiling yourself on. They try to do an imitation of the ending of Reanimator, which is also a bad movie, an occult movie, but the ending is great. For people that aren't aware of the Reanimator, it's a movie about a guy who learns to reanimate the dead with a sort of serum. And that ties into this movie. That's sort of the same idea. There's this crazy mad scientist who wants to be able to reanimate himself, basically. He wants to live forever. At the end of the movie, the love interest is dead, and he's put in a position where he has the whole laboratory and all the things, and then they cut. And then he comes back out when people come with a helicopter to rescue him, and then they get in the helicopter, and you don't know what happened. And then in voiceover, while they're in the helicopter, he says, "What have I done? I've decided to bring her back. And then what is the consequences of this?" They do not show us what his decision is. They don't show us him making the decision and acting. They don't even give him the chance to make this dramatic acting attempt. They just do it in a cut. They do it a cut and voiceover, and it's so lazy. The way that the Reanimator ended its movie is the reanimating fluid was in a syringe, and it's this really bright green color that really stood out throughout the movie. And his girlfriend is dead, and they're on this hospital bed, and he's, crying and is, in grief, and then he stops, and he realizes he still has the reanimating fluid, and you see him. This is not a good actor in this movie, I would say, but this is a really good scene. And you see him decide to use it, and then it all fades to black except for the vial, the syringe, and you see him inject it, and that's the end of the movie. They didn't have to make a voiceover. They didn't have to show what happens afterwards. They made the point clear that this guy made an ethical choice based on his grief, and sort of continued the torment that, trying to fight death in this case had caused. And this movie just totally screwed that up. There's no way this guy, Uwe Boll, had not seen The Reanimator. He was clearly going for an imitation of that, but totally screwed it up in every way. I can't believe this is the ending he went with. It's so boring and anticlimactic, and they could have made it, that could have been the one little bit of this movie that was watchable, and it isn't, because it totally screwed it up. This one's all on the director. The writing's bad and all, but no, this one is a directorial failure. It's just, that still gets me, is how badly the ending was mucked up in this one.